I thought I'd do something just a little bit different tonight. And I really hope that you stick around because I'm going to talk a little bit about, at least read the story, about the news of the day, right? Twitter was bought by Elon Musk, right? You say, Bernie, I don't give a flip about Twitter. I'm out. You can do that. But I promise it's going to be about much more than that. Um, this is what I like to do the most, what I'm going to do tonight. What I don't like to do the most is play whack-a-mole on local corrupt politicians all the time, but I have to, right? I have to. What I prefer to do and what I did on the radio for 8.5 years was this kind of stuff, talking about what's important, uh, enduring questions and important issues, as I like to call them. And this is about the freedom of speech. Now, notice I don't call it free speech. It's a small distinction, I know. I call it the freedom of speech. And I want to talk about why it's important and why it's important to have a broad range of ideas, even bad ones, even wrong ones, out there for slapping your ears. It's important to have that. I'm going to talk about whether or not a private company like this one or Twitter, if they censor views for disinformation and safety, is that a violation of the First Amendment? These are kind of things I want to talk about. And I want to compare what's going on in across the country and the world really right now to what goes on here in Bay County, because it is exactly the same. The control of information, the cancel culture. It's what happened to me, by the way. I'm not complaining about it. But I was canceled by the local establishment for saying disinformation in 2014. Yeah. And they said, you better stop saying all that disinformation, Bernier. You're out of here. And I said, do it. Do it. What am I? You know me, right? If I'm doing this, I'm going to tell you what I believe. And I'm going to back it up with evidence and reasons. And I'm going to listen to your point of view. Do you know what the craziest part of what's going on all over right now is, because I've been doing this for 25 years. When I say doing this, I mean studying, right? Really studying. I wanted to know, when I would hear about, okay, put yourself back in 1998. All right. When I would hear about campaign finance reform, I didn't know. I didn't care really. When I heard about abortion or affirmative action or the death penalty, I didn't know. I wasn't paying attention. But I wanted to know, and I didn't just want to pick a side. So I began to study, really study. I even went to school for it. I got a bachelor's degree in political science in 2000 from Cal State Fullerton. That's before I went to journalism school, right? But that's not really where I learned about government. I learned about government because I continued to be curious. I continued to read. And I believed what John Locke said. I believe he was an 18th century philosopher, John Locke, one of my favorites. You know what he says? Think about this really. He says, if you only know your side of the argument, you don't even know that. If you only know your side of the case, you don't even know your side of the case. You've got to be able to say the other side of the argument concisely if you want to understand it. Now, if you just want to pick a side because you hate the other guy, that's another thing. But if you really want to know, and I wanted to know, I really wanted to know. When I was on the radio, there were so many debates. This is when we had debates in America. 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11. It really started to change around 12. It began to change when social media became, with the rise of social media. Here's what happened. And I noticed this because when I first got on the radio, I worked so hard to understand these issues. If we were debating the Iraq War, and guess what? I was against the Iraq War that George W. Bush put. So Republicans didn't like me on that issue. I'd been against that one from the get-go. There were a few issues back then when we talked about policy rather than personality. See, that's when I would get in debates with people on the radio, it was about policy. We would debate Iraq, for example. Somebody would call in and say, well, the Iraqi people want this. And I would say, which Iraqi people? The Kurds? The Shiites? Which ones? And if they didn't know, it was embarrassing, right? Now, if you do this on Facebook and somebody doesn't know, they just post a meme. Nobody's embarrassed. Meme, LOL, and you're out. There's no embarrassment for not knowing. Do you remember what it was like when we didn't have to talk about politics every day, all day? And when we talked about policies rather than personalities, do you know what I'll bet your friends and family can't do? I know you can. But your friends and family probably can't. And that is discuss policy, only policy. Because it eventually goes to Trump this, Obama that, Biden this, and that's all part of the discussion. But that's the entire discussion now. It's personality over policy because we're too lazy to learn policy these days. Whatever our team wants is what we're now for. And it flips fast. It flips fast. Democrats also, I was in agreement with Democrats 25 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when it came to the freedom of speech. Because before that, it was really right-wing Republicans that were the ones that were pushing to limit free speech, but it was usually in the area of, like, say, pornography or something like that. It wasn't about politics. It wasn't about politics. That's a new thing. To stop disinformation, see, that's a new thing. But now it blows my mind. It blows my mind. Those of you who have been Democrats, and I've known you for so long, and we agreed on that. We argued on that side of the issue together. More freedom of speech, not less freedom of speech. More ideas colliding, right? It was wrong to stifle people's opinion. Privacy is another issue. I stood with Democrats on privacy issues. And you know what my Republican friends would tell me? They would say, Bernie, if you're not doing anything wrong, what do you have to worry about if the government's looking in your emails or if the government's pulling you over, because you don't have, they're doing a driver's license check. If you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about, right? Now, my Democrat friends are the ones who want to invade privacy, are the ones who want to stifle freedom of speech because of disinformation, dangerous disinformation. And it's weird. It's really weird. I'm thinking of you right now. Some of you, it's everything in me not to say your names. It is weird. But I want to talk about why it's important that we hear all points of views. There are crazy people who I think are absolutely nuts, borderline dangerous, but I want their voices out there more, not less. More, not less. Because I want to be able to say, look at this nut. Look at this person. Say it again, right? I don't want to shut them up. Say that again. You got to hear this. You're not going to believe it. All right. I want to talk about that. Big tech censorship. Let's go to the story first. I'm going to answer your questions. If you have challenges for me, I'm going to try to answer those as well. If you disagree with me, and I know you may not care about Twitter, but this is more than that. This is about big tech censorship. Is it even censorship if the government's not explicitly doing it? Does it keep us safer? Who decides? I want to answer those questions, but let's look at the story first. The big story today, I haven't even read this yet. I just know it happened. All right, let's take a look. And I'm going to go to the latest headline on at thedailymail.com. All right, here we go. Twitter staff are told in emergency meeting that their jobs are only, this is the headline they chose, that their jobs are only safe for 6 months. Let me do this view so you can see it better. All right. That their jobs are only safe for 6 months. until Musk completes his $44 billion takeover, they call it. Takeover. As they demand to know if they will be forced to return to office. That's the headline, right? That's what the Daily Mail chose to make the most important point. I just want to go through these bullet points. Some Twitter staff have reacted with horror to Elon Musk's takeover. It's called a purchase, by the way. Elon Musk didn't take anything over. He didn't roll in with tanks and take it, or with Teslas and take it over. He bought it. The company has frozen planned changes to the service until Friday, amid what Bloomberg speculated was concern that a rogue employee could push something or mess up the product on the way out the door. In message rooms, staff vented about their trepidation over working for the Mercurial South African. The Mercurial South African. This is how news is reporting this. Others in a staff meeting held at 5, instead of telling us about the deal, we're hearing about how concerned the staff are who have been censoring you. Not me. I'm on their side. Okay. Let's get to CEO Parag Agrawal told staff that their jobs were safe for the moment, saying there would be no layoffs until Musk took over in 6 months, reassuring them about the stock options and benefits. He would not be drawn on whether Donald Trump would be allowed back on the platform. Think about what we're even talking about. If a former president is allowed on a platform to voice his views, that's a question. It is a question in the Taliban type America that we live in today, both locally and nationally. Trump said that he has no wish to, blah, blah, blah. The CEO of Twitter, current CEO, said he was proud of our teams and inspired by the work that has never been more important. Really, what work? What has never been more important? Offering a place for people to communicate, post their views, their opinions, dumb ones that you may hate, or silencing that. Okay, comprehensive process. The founder of Tesla and SpaceX, who is 50 years old, Elon Musk, agreed to pay shareholders $54.20 in cash for each share. Here we go. Now's the important stuff. The move shifts control of the social media platform, populated by millions of users, to the world's richest man. Do these headlines seem slanted to you? The world's richest man. Were people concerned in 2013 when the Washington Post was bought by Jeff Bezos? No. You should read the headlines back then. They had a different slant. The Tesla magnate vowed to protect free speech online, defeat the spam bots, and authenticate all humans. Do you know how great that would be? Do you know how fantastic that would be? He said he would enhance the product with new features, making new algorithms open source to increase trust. All right. So that's the basic story. I just wanted to get what the news is reporting as the basic story. Now I want to talk about why this is important. Even if you don't care about Twitter, I want to talk about why it's important. And I want to look at your questions as well. And I want to take your questions and take your challenges. If you think I'm wrong about what I'm going to talk about, I'll answer them. You can put me on the spot right after this. Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome. All right, I want to look at your comments right now as well. Let me tell you one reason why I'm such a big freedom of speech guy. Again, I don't call it free speech. Bernie, free speech doesn't mean free reach, man. Oh, that's brilliant. Did you come up with that yourself? Look, when we have certain opinions that cannot be heard, right, that are too disgusting to be heard because they're dangerous, they hurt people, you end up with me in Bay County. That's what they told me in 2014 on the radio. And I was canceled. All right. And I'm not complaining about it. The private radio station had every right to do it. And in fact, now I'm glad they did. In fact, at the time, I was kind of glad they did because I wasn't going to live under anybody's thumb like that. But why is it important? Well, what they did to me is the same thing that they did to, at the same time, too, in 2014, to a great reporter with ABC News called, it might be CBS News, Cheryl Atkinson. Oh, Cheryl Atkinson's an amazing broadcast reporter, but she started to report things that were off limits. And she was also canceled. And many others too. John Stossel is another one. His opinions are labeled by fact checkers on this platform as false. Yeah, even when he quotes both sides and gets scientists from both sides. Well, that's what they said about me. And then Arthur Cullen, you got a minute? I'll tell you the story. The political operative here, the dumpster diver, the campaign manager, he told everybody running for office, never go on Bernie Thompson's show. Do not let him interview you. If nobody goes on his show, out of sight, out of mind, he goes away. So then for the first time, people stopped coming on my show and you stopped hearing the debates. I invited Jeff McConnell about 3 weeks ago to come on my show. He could do it from his house. He doesn't have to feel threatened and sit next to me. He could have done it at his house. I never heard back from him. They won't do it. They won't debate me, that's for sure, on any issue. Why? Because you'll skew things, Bernie. You'll lie. You'll spread disinformation. Bullshit. Will you forgive me? I had to say BS. You won't do it because you're dishonest and you don't want to answer questions. I'll answer any question. They know this. They know me. They know me. I did this on the radio. I would debate anybody, professors, lawyers, anybody. And I wasn't afraid about being wrong. You know why? Because I was never wrong. I'm only kidding. I wasn't afraid about being wrong because if I was wrong, I would be grateful that I found out and I didn't have to go on being wrong. I could say, holy Nikes, just like that. I thought it was this, but you just showed me it was that. Thank God I don't have to go around and be wrong anymore. That's what I would do live on the radio. That's not scary. That's liberating. So those who claim that they've got to stop dangerous disinformation, they are claiming to be, do you hear me? They're claiming to be infallible. Infallible. They know what's true. They know what science is. Now, I know that they're just saying that to control you, but their position ostensibly is that they know the facts and the truth, and they can only let the facts and the truth be put out because otherwise it's just too dangerous, right? So think about, I want you to, don't let that go by. Anybody who tells you that this is something that didn't happen 10 years ago because people would have been embarrassed to say that's disinformation. That's misinformation because they knew they would sound arrogant. You know everything? God, that's amazing. You've got a monopoly on truth. Nobody said that. Instead, they would say, hey, I'll debate you. I'll prove that you're wrong. And this is important. Ideas would collide and the truth would prevail. And you got to decide who you agreed with the most. And if one of us got you so fired up that you decided to go out and commit a crime, guess whose fault that was? Yours, not mine. Cancel culture is terrible. And the only people who are for it are people who want to control other people. And they pretend that they just want to keep you safe, but they don't want to just keep you safe. They want to shut you down. And there's going to be a lot of it, by the way, as the November midterms approach. Already we have the former president, Barack Obama, again giving speeches about how important it is to stop dangerous disinformation. It's bad for democracy because he's got a monopoly on truth. And that's all your delicate little ears should ever hear is the truth, according to those in power in the government. But the truth is, it's really only one side now that does this. The side that I used to be with when it came to the freedom of speech. Democrats were better on the freedom of speech 25 years ago. Not by much, because mostly the conversation about censorship had to do with things like porn and that type of stuff. It really never had to do with political speech. That's a new thing, kind of like the Taliban does. And today, it seems to me like this is a win. You say, Bernie, I don't use Twitter. It's not about that. I'm telling you, it's not about that. It's about the big tech monopolies that now have been broken up. And I'll tell you something else. I have long been pissed off because you have billionaires. I don't even like using left, right, okay, those terms. I really don't, because they're fluid, as I just showed you. All right, so I was going to give you examples, but I'm not. But it was the George Soros types, right? It was Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon. It was Zuckerberg recently. These type of billionaires use their money to really control, not influence, control public opinion. And I have been furious that rich people on the other end of the aisle, right? People who don't agree with this type of, not opinions, with this type of stifling of information, of canceling people, of surveilling people, this type of stuff. You guys have been the Elon Musk, you guys have been standing on the sidelines while they buy up everything and control everything. And this was one of the first times I've seen somebody, a wealthy person, put their money where their mouth is. Wealthy people don't put their money where their mouth is very much. They don't. Tell me who does. Not very much. Maybe a little. This is the first time somebody's done it very much that I've seen. Let me give you another example. In 2015, 6 corporations had bought up 80% of the news outlets. Disney, Comcast, AT&T. These companies bought the news outlets that pretend to be news outlets today, but are really PR firms for the corporate authoritarians. So those were all, if you had to say left or right, those were all left-wing wealthy interests that did that. Meanwhile, those on the other side were busy, creating things and creating jobs and creating wealth and doing. But while you were doing that, you didn't realize that you were giving them the weapons to hurt you. They were going to turn news outlets against you. They were going to use social media against you. And by the way, Republicans in office didn't do much about this type of authoritarian bullying anyway. But cancel culture sucks out loud. It sucks because first of all, it doesn't allow us to see all of the possible options that could lead to the truth. And I've already explained to you, it does away with things. Like, for example, me. Now, I found a way back in, right? But I'll give you another example. Look, do you all remember products that we used to have in the 70s we don't have anymore because they're too dangerous or they offend people? Like, for example, candy cigarettes. Well, I happen to have, since today is a day of the freedom of speech, I happen to have something that is considered canceled. You can't find these candy cigarettes anymore. But I'll tell you what, today is a day to celebrate, right? Candy cigarettes should be celebrated. When you find these things, get them. Walk around the store. and ask people if they know if they have a lighter. Do you have any lighters anywhere? Sir, holy Now, what I'm trying to say here is Americans freak out about stupid stuff. $31 trillion in debt? Boring. If there were a cigarette dispenser at the mall, there would be yellow crime tape. People would be looking at surveillance tapes to find out who put it there. For God's sake, we can't survive that. You say, Bernie, there are no malls. That's another one. Now, these things are actually not bad. They're kind of stale, but I don't mind it. I like it. It reminds me of a freer time, and I like a freer time. Hey, I want to ask you this. Do you, I got extra candy cigarettes. If you want candy cigarettes, call me. Bernie's a dealer of candy cigarettes. Shut him down. I swear to God, someone right now is working on that. I want to ask you a serious question, though, because you know what this comes down to, this whole discussion about the freedom of speech. You don't hear people put it this way because I think different. What is, you know what? I'm going to look. I'm going to look at what your answer is and be honest. And if somebody doesn't have your answer, don't be a jerk, please, here. What is your paramount political value? Have you ever thought of this? What do you want government to do? I'll give you three choices. Which one of these is the most important to you? Your paramount political value. Is it fairness? Do you want the government to bring about fairness? Because people aren't treated fair, right? There's inequity, there's inequality all over the place if you look for it, everywhere. So do you want government to bring more fairness? Is fairness your paramount political value? Is safety? Is safety your paramount political value? You better believe it, Bernie, for God's sake. Look at COVID. We just had the best example. Safety should be the paramount political value. There are political leaders who might say things that cause me to just go break in a building. Yeah, we got to stop that. We need safety. We need to shut people up. They can cause an insurrection. Do you think maybe that could be used against me? How much farther? Do you think Mayor Sheldon, he told people to come to the city council meeting? Oh, they've gotten pretty heated. They've gotten pretty heated in those meetings. But the other side, the ones sitting at the council, they've been the most out of control. They're the ones actually who have threatened people, cussed at people more than we have. I don't, but some in the audience have. Do you want safety? Is that your paramount political value? So we've got fairness, safety, and liberty. Is liberty your paramount political value? Should government ensure that people have liberty, that they should not pass laws that, for example, eliminate your choice? Right? Should you be free to choose whether you have health insurance or you don't? Should you be free to choose whether you wear a seatbelt or don't? Should you be free to choose these things? Or is that too damn dangerous? And we need government to reduce those kinds of things. Or does government exist to protect your rights equally? Let's just do those three. Do you think government should be focused mostly on safety, mostly on fairness, or mostly on liberty? What do you think it is? You know mine. Mine is liberty. Mine is liberty. Without a question. Yeah, but Bernie, it could be more dangerous. Give it to me. I would rather be free and have consequences. You say, Bernie, but the cigarette example is a perfect example. Should people be free to smoke? Sure, but they're going to get sick, Bernie. They're going to end up in the hospital. What I'm going to tell you over the course of the next minute and a half, you probably have never heard. which is a perfect example of why we need more freedom of speech and not less. But what I'm going to tell you is true. Take cigarettes, for example. Bernie, we got to raise taxes on cigarettes and discourage people from smoking because people can get cancer from it. And then it costs society money because they end up in the hospital, and it's very expensive and we have to pay for it. So therefore, since we have to pay for it, yes, we can tell people they can't do it. What if, right? I know, I can feel it. Some of you are saying that right now. Bernie, exactly. You understand it. But that's not true. Because the fact that we have to pay for other people's illness is an indictment of socialism, not liberty. That's number one, but probably not the most compelling for you. Here's a better one. You're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you. There have been many studies on this. The first one was by a Harvard professor named V. Kip Viscusi. The other one was by the James Madison Institute. Do you know that, are you ready for this? Smokers save society money. They don't cost society money. You've been lied to. You want to know why? I'll prove it. Hear me again. Smokers save society money. They don't cost society money. If your argument is only in terms of dollars, that's not a true argument, but you haven't been told that. Why is that? Because 1 in 7 lifetime smokers die an average of 7 years early. Okay? 1 in 3. Did I say 1 in 7? Hold on. Lifetime smokers die an average of 7 years early. Okay, those are the figures. At least they were about 10 years ago. So this is ghoulish, I've been told. But if that's your argument, I want you to hear me. What if you thought about this and you said, but wait a minute, smokers put more into society because they pay a boatload of money for those cigarettes they're buying. Number 2, those who die 7 years early, society is not paying their pension for a long time. So when you look at this and you say, Bernie, I don't think so, this, that, yeah. I'm telling you, there have been studies on this, peer-reviewed studies on this. But people don't know it because this is yet another example of not enough information getting out, or information we don't like. It slaps our ears. We don't believe it. We hate smoking. It stinks. It killed a family member of mine. And therefore, I refuse to believe this garbage. As a matter of fact, I used to like you, Bernie. I don't like you anymore. All right? I'm so pissed off right now, saying all this stuff like this that I don't agree with. We used to be able to disagree with each other. Do you know what I say to people, and even people who I like and I've known for a long time? You may have seen me do this online. I don't do it very often, but sometimes I do. When somebody says, Bernie, I really like what you're doing. I used to even support you. But I'll tell you what I won't do. I won't support this kind of garbage anymore. I'm done. I'm taking my support and I'm out of here. And that happens. Do you know what I always say? I say, no, please. I'm sorry. Don't leave. No, I don't say that. I don't say that at all. I say, man, it's been a great ride. I loved standing shoulder to shoulder with you and fighting these issues with you. It's been a great ride. And I'm going to miss you. But guess what? I'm not changing my point of view. And you need to toughen up.
When your life is on the line, hire the lawyer who lives in our community, works in our community, and worships in our community. I'm Al Saulene, your Panama City Beach lawyer. 850-215-0628.
Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. So what were we talking about? These are so cool. Who misses candy cigarettes? If there's the best argument against cancel culture, in my opinion, I mean, the best argument. I got to remember which side I painted with permanent marker. You know, because the last thing I want to do is eat that. So let me go to your comments. Am I off base tonight? Are you upset because there might be more opinions out there and it's dangerous? Do you feel scared? Were you happy that they kicked off people with Alex Jones? Are you kidding me? You hear the stuff he says? The way he talks about people. His lies and disinformation. He knows better, doesn't he? Plus his gravelly voice. I mean, you got to ban the guy. Donald Trump. We should ban all presidents now who talk like that. Any president who says, you go out there and fight. Any president who says, for example, we need to win the election so we can reward our friends and punish our enemies, right? Any congresswoman, for example, who says, go out and get in their face and scream at the Republicans. You should just, kick them right off, huh? No, we shouldn't kick them right off. We should have more of it. That is, that's the way I view it. Look at these crazy people. You want to be like them? Don't let your kids be like them. But you got to have them to show. If you ban them, look at them. Well, all I see, Mom, all I see, Dad, is an opinion that's approved by the government. That's what you want. Everybody should be celebrating, I think, tonight. But Bernie, we've had serious disinformation. I mean, do you remember? Let me give you an example of dangerous, really dangerous disinformation. Who remembers when the New York Post, about a year and a half ago, published a story about a Hunter Biden laptop? You remember that? And Twitter, which was bought today by Elon Musk, Twitter said, wait a minute, that's too dangerous. We've got an election coming up, and we can't have people know about this. And so Twitter banned the oldest newspaper in America, the New York Post, because surely it was disinformation. Turned out to be true, didn't it? Turned out to be true. And if you posted on, I'm going to look up your account when I get off of here. I'm going to look up a year and a half ago, and I'm going to see if you said that. Thank God the New York Post has been banned because, boy, they're posting dangerous stories about a Hunter Biden laptop. Or, what about the Covington kid that was making fun of the American Indian, smiling right in his face? What about that? Or what about Kyle Rittenhouse, who was running around shooting people? It was a mass shooting. What about that? Well, Bernie, I don't like that story. Yeah. But it wasn't true. Those who say they need to keep disinformation from you are the ones who are putting the disinformation out there. It's a new tactic in America where they project, they do what they accuse you of doing. You say, Bernie, I don't like this show because I'm not a Republican. Neither am I. I'm not a Republican either. Now the other half says, well, crap, I don't like you now either. I'm an independent. I had to divorce the Republican Party twice. They let me down that much. Yeah. So now I'm sort of a bachelor. I'm a political bachelor. I do what I want when I want. I do what I want. You should try it. You should really try it. Yeah, but Bernie, I feel safe in my tribe. Whatever would I do without a shirt that says R or a shirt that says D? I might walk around and somebody, I got to join one of the gangs. There's safety in gangs. I'm telling you, it's liberating. It's liberating to pursue the truth and not have that, to have your allegiance be to the truth. I've said I'm going to read your comments. I need to read your comments. I feel like I was going to give you more examples. You want more examples? Okay. How about the Governor Whitmer plot? That was fake. How about the January 6th insurrection? These poor people who have had you say, but Bernie, they're not poor, they broke in. Okay, they still should have their rights in a court of law. They shouldn't be political prisoners in solitary confinement for a year. Do you know that now they're starting to be found not guilty, finally, when they're in a court of law? How can you be guilty, the judge said, when the police are letting you in? I don't like that story, Bernie. Okay. Do you like Jussie Smollett? How about that story? People who said that they thought he was not telling the truth were accused of spreading disinformation, weren't they? Who spread misinformation? What about the Wuhan lab? What about the Wuhan lab? Misinformation? What about vaccines? If you take a vaccine, the president said, Joe Biden, take the vaccine, and Trump, then you won't get sick. You won't get the virus. Bernie, that's not what we say. You have less of a chance of dying and going to the hospital. Yeah, later they said that. But Bernie, the science evolved. Okay. Example after example after example in the last 2 years, when the censorship push. Let me just say this. You're not my kind of person. You are not my kind of person if you are the type of person who wants to limit access to information. You say, Bernie, I don't want to limit access to information. I only want to limit access to bad information. Who decides? You thought all the stuff I told you was true. And those who said otherwise were spreading disinformation. You were wrong. It goes both ways. It has for years. Do you want to know why? This is a shocker. What I'm going to tell you now is a shocker. Because Democrats can be wrong. But there's another half of that story. So can Republicans. You're not infallible. The moment you say, and I think about this when Panama City Beach Mayor Mark Sheldon said, there's a lot of misinformation. And by the way, if I can bring this up again, if you don't mind, former vice mayor, former councilman Jeff McConnell, because he got voted out 60-40 and lost to Mary Coburn last week. On his way out, he was overheard huffing and puffing about the misinformation that led to his political demise. The misinformation that led to his political demise. Do you know what he's really saying? And when you say it, he's saying he is infallible. And if you disagree, you're spreading misinformation. There's nothing more arrogant than that. There's nothing more arrogant than that. You say, Bernie, you're pretty arrogant. I'm humble enough to know that I could be wrong. And I want the other point of view out there. I want the wrong point of view out there. So when you say the next time the word misinformation or disinformation comes out of your mouth, I want you to ask yourself if you're infallible. And I want you to ask yourself, what was your position on the Hunter Biden laptop story when Twitter banned the oldest newspaper in America? What was your position on the Covington story where you saw the 17 or 16-year-old boy laughing in the face of that American Indian? What was your position on Jussie Smollett? How certain were you at the time? Bernie, science changes. I'm only asking for every one of us to have more humility, for every one of us to welcome ideas we don't agree with. You know, one of my favorite quotes, one of my very favorite quotes is from William Blake. William Blake was an English writer in the 17th century, 18th century, I believe. And William Blake said this. You ready for this? This is the best I got. I saved it for near the end. This is the best I have. Remember this quote. He said, "The man who never changes his opinion is like standing water and breeds reptiles of the mind." Are you breeding reptiles of the mind? The man who never alters his opinion is like standing water and breeds reptiles of the mind. No reptiles of the mind here, Jack. There's rushing water. We both could be wrong. And we both have to be willing to learn, defend our positions, be able to give the other position fairly, in order to understand it truly. What is your goal? Is it to understand? Is it to know? You know, I really don't talk about religion much, do I? Do you hear me do that much? But if you read your Bible, right? If you read it, what does it talk so much about in Genesis, in the early books of the Bible? It talks about how important it is to seek what? Understanding, right? Doesn't it say that? And those are God's words, right? That's God. And those first 5 books of the Bible are supposed to be God's words. You say, Bernie, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in that. Fair enough. Fair enough. But are these not good principles? Seek to understand. Seek wisdom. What are the other ones? Discernment, right? Wisdom, understanding, discernment. Those are important things. Seek those as if they were riches. Seek them as though they were silver. There's nothing more important than wisdom and understanding and discernment. Yes, there is, Bernie. There's power. We've got to shut down misinformation on Twitter and on Facebook, and the government needs to work with them. And oh, by the way, that's why it's a violation of the First Amendment. It's not just a social media platform doing what they want to do, it's their own business. By the way, can I tell you, it's one of the only times I ever talked to a liberal friend of mine who says a business can do whatever they want. Really? Weren't you the guy screaming, go bake the effing cake? Go bake the effing cake. What happened to a business can do what it wants to do? Well, now a business can do what it wants to do. But this isn't that kind of business. This is a business that is on a public resource. The internet is a public resource. There are differences. There are differences. And when the government, this is what makes it a First Amendment violation, when the government incentivizes any company, private company, to censor the freedom of speech, that is the same as if the government censors itself. That's case law. A judge said it, so it's got to be true. Think about that. It's important stuff. But I'm going to tell you honestly, you are not my kind of person if you are a cancel culture, stop disinformation person, because you are too arrogant. You believe you're infallible, even when it's shown over and over and over that none of us are infallible. Not even you, not even your team. Which is why I really believe you don't believe that. You just hate the other guy enough to want to shut his ass down, don't you? Well, today, everybody gets a step in the direction on one platform, on one big tech platform, that they can, hopefully, we don't even know how it's going to turn out. It may turn out that there's still going to be censorship. There's always going to be a little, Bernie. You can't yell fire in a crowded room. You know how much it wears me out sometimes to have these conversations. The freedom of speech. I want those who I can't stand to talk more. Why do you think I feature Jeff McConnell? You wouldn't have known about Jeff McConnell if we just shut him up. You wouldn't know about Mark Sheldon if we just shut him up. No, talk more. We want to know who you are. Classify yourself. What do you believe? How much do you respect the other person? The other. Speaking of the Bible, what does it say about strangers? Keep them out of the meetings. All right, I've rambled too much now. I hope you found this interesting. I hope that you'll think about, really truly think about, what is your primary political value? Is it safety? Is it fairness? Political value, not cosmic value. Political value that you believe politicians can bring through the crushing force of government. Is it fairness? Is it security and safety? Or is it liberty? Something for you to think about. All right, I'm going to break away. I want to thank my other sponsor, the Unknown Patriot, for supporting what I do. And if you like the show and you want to support my work, this is how you can do it through Patreon. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. It's like giving a tip every month, as little as $5. A tip every month, no matter how big the entrees are, like tonight, for as little as $5. It's anonymous. Nobody knows it's you. You can quit at any time, and it's easy. Patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. I wish I could talk about these kind of things more, actually. And maybe there'll be a platform where I'm free to do so without being scared to death, right? That they'll shut you down for misinformation. All right. Thanks for being with me, and I will see you soon.